special guy on the sort of YouTube channel today. Jace Stoffal really needs no introduction, but I'm gonna give you a little introduction anyway, right? Fighting guy at Oregon, right? Local Oregon guy from Roseburg. Um, Obviously, get drafted by the Twins in the eighth round. I'm gonna let you introduce yourself from there. I'm not gonna like keep talking for you. So appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, you pretty much said it all. Just born and raised in Roseburg, Oregon, and I didn't really have any offers or anything out of high school, and went to a JUCO here in Roseburg, and then I recruited by Jake Angier at Oregon, and went there for 2 years. Got drafted as a junior, and played about a year pro ball, and then tore my labrum. So now I'm working construction, washed.
Yeah, yeah, man. Would love to hear more of, I guess, like what drove you to go to junior college, right? I think a lot of guys in high school hit that point of like, hey, I'm not going to go to Oregon right now, so I'm going to push to go to another school, or I'm just going to stop playing, or I'm going to try and walk on. What went into that decision of like, what's best for me right now, for where I want to be? I'm going to go to this JUCO, and why that one specifically? Because I know like we've talked in the past about it and how beneficial it was for you.
Mhm. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if my story is a little bit unique, but Oregon baseball, the state of Oregon, isn't super good. You get even at the 6A level, which is the highest level. It's not, which is where I played. I played our school was 6A, but I don't know if it's quite. It's not as talented. We don't have a lot of people. Um, so really, it was more of I went to junior college not knowing, how good I was at baseball. I pitched well. I threw 87, 88 in high school, 86. Just not really knowing. And then I just went there and I literally told my mom one day, I was like, I'm going to play baseball because I got a full ride and I'll have it pay for my associates. And that's all. That's where my head was. I never thought I was going to go play at Oregon. I never thought I was going to be drafted. I just didn't know how good I was going to become, I guess. So I was just going strictly to pay for school. So, but the thing that JUCO, I think changed me was, there's not a lot of rules.
No, none.
The coaches can kind of do what they want. And we had a coach by the name of Jeremiah Robbins. I won three World Series with LT State in Idaho, NAIA school. I think he was in five and won three of them, I believe. And he just really helped me shape me as a man, and as a player, and help the mental side. I think JUCO, is more mental than anything, in my opinion, in what I went through.
1,000%.
Yeah,
1,000%.
because again, there's no rules, and they kind of run you into the dirt, and people are puking, and you can't really do that at any D1 or even like NAIA. There's just so many rules now. So I think I showed you that video of my JUCO squatting the turtle that one year.
Yes. Yes, I specifically remember that.
I don't know why, but that's just what they wanted to do. So
So what flipped the switch for you, right? Like you're going to JUCO to pay for school, you want to play baseball, you still don't know if you're even like necessarily good enough or even know where you want to go.
mhm.
What flipped the switch to be like, I can really play at a high level now? Like this is a reality.
um, Obviously, I was playing well. I got in the weight room for the first time in my life when I was a freshman in college. I never lifted in high school. I wish I did, but I didn't. So I started throwing. I topped out at 93, 94 as a freshman.
So
And
big numbers out of the gate, basically.
out of the gate, yeah, I was like, oh, lifting actually does cool things. So started lifting. I went from 86 to 88 to basic. I topped out at 93, 94, but I sat probably 89, 91, 92 on a good day. So I think that had some to do with it, but most of it was honestly Jeremiah Robbins again. Again, I didn't know how good I actually was. It was an NWAC bat league, a wood bat league.
Which is maybe like four in the country in college baseball leagues that still use wood bat.
Correct. And we live in the PNW, so ball does not fly. And we have especially with a wood bat, and And our park is huge here. It's one of the biggest ones in the state. Um, and so, I mean, I didn't give up any runs or anything like that. But again, there was that piece of me that was like, oh, well, it's a wood bat league. It's JUCO, and the ball doesn't fly here. Who knows how I would actually be doing? You know what I mean?
Right. So it's still a little self-doubt in your head of like, this is kind of like a fluke in a sense.
Right. I just seems too easy, but I don't know if I'm actually that good, you know. And so Jeremiah Robbins basically sat me down one day and was like, "All right, bud. Well, season's coming to an end. You know, we're about to start the playoffs." And he's like, "Where do you want to go?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "You're not staying for another year." He's like, "I'm not going to hold you back." I'm like, "I don't know what you are talking about." And he's like, what do you, and he didn't understand why I didn't understand. And he's like, give me your 5 schools that you want to go to. And I gave him, I gave him, I gave him an NAIA because I didn't know. I was like, there's no way in my head, being from a small town in Roseburg, Oregon, I didn't think I was ever going to be close enough to go play at a D1. So I was like, I mean, I gave him an NAIA. I gave him like 2 D2s here. And he looked at me and he read the places that I wrote down, and he literally ripped the paper and was like, "No." He's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, and I literally was like, "Coach, I don't know what you're talking about." And he goes, "You're going to a Power Five. Where do you want to go?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." And so I didn't want to go too far from home, so I just basically gave him all the Pac-12 schools.
Right.
And I was kind of like, "Yeah, sure, see what you can do with that." You know what I mean? And then
And you were always sort of biased towards Oregon for football, but from a baseball perspective at the time, you were still more of a Beaver guy.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I I don't watch baseball. I never did.
I am well aware of that. Living with you for a year, you never turned on anything.
No, I don't watch baseball. I think it's boring. I don't know. It's weird. No one understands it. Eh, I like it more now that I understand it, you know, and it's kind of like, okay, now I can see what people are doing and kind of match up stuff, you know, all that. But, um, but yeah, so I didn't watch it or anything. I just knew that from up until well, I guess our first year, the year before that, when they went to the regional, they sucked. Other than the 2012 season, but or 2013, whatever, when they hosted the Super.
Yeah,
But
when BT was still somehow a player.
right. But I guess I can't say they suck, but they just were not good. They weren't making headlines, you know, they weren't going to win World Series. And so it was kind of like, oh, it's fun to watch Oregon in football because Oregon State sucks at football. And then it was like, oh, it's fun to watch Oregon State at baseball because Oregon wasn't that good at baseball at the time. So
Right.
that's kind of where I was.
And at one point, you end up talking to both schools, right? Oregon State sort of reaches out a little late, from what I remember, and you were talking to Angier pretty exclusively. And then, what kind of made your decision to like, I'm going to go to Oregon over Oregon State? Because I think a part of it was a little bit of timing, right?
Yeah, a little bit. I got reached out to by pretty much within a week. It was all within a week. I got reached out to by Washington State, Oregon State, and I think
Was
it
that
was like,
crazy to you at that time? Like at that point, were you like, right? Your coach tells you like, "Hey, you're going Power Five," but was that like almost seeing the proof in the pudding? Like, oh my God, I'm actually going to do this.
yeah, it was a very surreal moment. Like I said, I had absolutely no idea that was going to happen, and I couldn't believe it at the time. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, to answer the first question, it was definitely when I was talking to Angier, he pretty much was saying, "Hey, I'm gonna take care of your schooling for you. I'm gonna, you know, all that stuff." So that helped a lot.
right.
Didn't come from a lot of money, so I didn't have any help with that, and I didn't want to be in huge debt. And so they pretty much took care. I only had, I think, $4,000 in debt after 2 years there.
Yeah, which for the mass population is just
Yeah,
ridiculously low.
yeah. So they took care of me. That was nice. Um, but yeah, it's basically right when I signed. I don't know what happened, but literally I signed on the dotted line. I signed to Oregon, and Oregon State calls me like the next day. I don't know if they heard the news. I don't know what happened, but then they're sitting there trying to offer me, and I'm like, I already signed, dude. I'm sorry.
If I had to take a wild guess, Waz definitely bragged about it.
Oh,
Like
really?
you know how he is. If I had to take a wild guess, I could imagine that he probably wanted that to be out there to our rivals that, he signed a local guy over them in a sense. Because you know how he is, obviously.
Yes. No, yeah.
Uh great dude. But anyway, so kind of get into like I guess how we met, right? Like we met, obviously we found out we were gonna be roommates. Kind of go into what your first impression was in a sense of just like, obviously we're from two opposite parts of the world, right? I'm from New York, you being from Oregon, and now you're gonna live with this crazy New York guy who's a lot older than you at the time too. So coming in
Right.
as a fifth year, you're coming in as a sophomore.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I was 19 at the time. I was a young sophomore. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm
so I was,
23 at that time.
yeah. I mean, I can't say on here probably what I really felt, but um, um, no, I mean, it was cool coming from, just you playing in a regional. I think I think living with three, I mean, I lived with two fifth years and a junior, you know what I mean? So it was,
And that
you,
was definitely on purpose, 100%.
I bet so. Yeah. And so got to learn a lot. Like I said, coming from a small town and then coming from a small JUCO, it was like, people that are playing at Power Five levels, people that are making it to regionals, playing in big games, Brennan playing the SEC,
Yeah.
stuff like that. It's like, okay, these guys have been around. What can I soak up from them? And just kind of, I remember talking to you guys. We didn't talk a whole lot about all that stuff. I don't remember, but I definitely got bits and pieces from you guys, all of you guys. But I think it was definitely beneficial for me being able to talk to you about pitching and just kind of what it's like to play in the later in the season and kind of how to prepare for that and prepare for big games.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, in that room alone, you have two guys who have been to multiple regionals, and then you have Brennan, who in high school was one of the best players in Georgia,
Yeah.
and goes to South Carolina and then transfers to us, and then obviously gets drafted by the Oakland Athletics and is in Double A right now. So you just have a lot of talent in that room, including yourself. And again, you might not have known it yet. But speaking on that too, right? So we all leave for winter. A couple weeks go by. We all come back. We stay in touch, and right, you're driving home from a snowstorm basically, and we sort of get into an accident and we break our thumb, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It was on
Um,
Christmas Day,
yeah,
actually. Yeah,
yeah,
kind
which kind of sucks, right? And then at that time, I think you're still kind of on the fence of, do I belong here?
of.
What's going on? What's my role? That happens, right? You kind of go through it, you come back, and then you end up working your way to being our Sunday guy towards the end of the year.
Mhm.
Um, from the mental side of that, like what was going through your head when we're kind of sitting in that cast in your room of like, I don't even know, like I'm at this huge school now, like I don't even know what's going to happen at this point.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you one thing. I got pretty good at Fortnite.
You were
Um,
tremendous.
yeah, I was pretty good at Fortnite. But yeah, no, I definitely. Um, there was a lot, like you said, self doubt. Not knowing if I was good enough. Obviously I made the team, but then it was like, where am I going to be? All these guys. I don't know. I'm just getting to know these guys, and now I'm hurt. I started in that one like lane game in the fall or winter.
Yeah.
And I got good feedback from that, but it was like, okay, it was another JUCO team, so still, sitting there like, okay, I pitched against Lane 4 times last year. They were in my conference. So it was kind of like, am I still good enough? Am I proven? Does everyone think I'm a poon? You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
how can I come back and prove to everyone that, I'm ready to rock? Um,
And you
but I
did
don't,
that, right? Like at the end, and like when you came back, it was pretty much even before you came back, like you had done enough, I think more than you realized in the fall and in the winter to when it was in everyone's head that like, hey, when Jace comes back, like that's our Sunday guy. Like there wasn't really a question. And then that's exactly what happened. When you came back, like I think your second or third start was against Oregon State, the number 2 team in the country on a Sunday.
yeah,
Like so it was
yeah,
pretty immediate that like you were the Sunday guy.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's weird hearing it from your perspective, because I don't know why. I don't know if that's just what has helped me, feel the fire, I guess, a little bit. But I was always questioning that. Is it enough? So I guess it's cool hearing it from your perspective. That's what everyone thought. I obviously didn't really ask anybody that, but
Yeah, I mean,
um,
I don't know. I mean, I know specifically like Angier and BT were telling me like this is going to be our Sunday game. Maybe because I was one of the older guys, they wanted to kind of living with you, sort of like letting you know these things and kind of making sure. And I don't even think I told you because I saw what you were doing. And I was like, I'm just going to let him do his thing. And when he comes
Mm-hmm.
back and starts on Sundays, he's going to be fine. So that
Mm-hmm.
whole year wraps up. We go to Louisville for a regional. Obviously, it doesn't go the way we want, right? I don't think your outing your last outing of the year went the way you wanted.
Yeah, give
You
up
then
a
just
tank.
yeah, as we all have, right? As we all have. You then decide like I think at that point for me, from my perspective, was the first time you realized like I can be really good at this. Like, yeah, it's great to eventually it's great to put on the Oregon uniform, but I can be past that. And you were like, I'm gonna stay home, but I'm gonna train with our strength coach Daryl and
Mm-hmm.
really kind of put my best foot forward. So when I come back next year, I don't know what your goal was. I don't know if it was to be the Friday guy. Obviously, that's what ended up happening.
Mm-hmm.
But kind of get into that of sort of like that flip of a switch for you.
Yeah, so I think I only threw about 50 innings that year. So I wanted to get a little bit more innings. So I had 4 starts in the West Coast League. I played for the Drifters. They were in Eugene. It was their first year. And I was like, okay, I just want a few starts. And I talked to the coach, and he got me in. So I got 4 starts. I threw, I don't know, I went like 6 innings each time, and I just was done. And I was like, all right, I'm out of here. I just wanted a few more innings. And so then that's when I went back and lifted with Daryl. And I was with him, I mean, 4 or 5 days a week, eating right. Lost some of my chub. Definitely wasn't as chubby as I was my sophomore year.
No more pints of ice cream in the bedroom.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so just a lot more focus, a lot more dedication. All my lifting went up a ton. I mean, I think I was dumbbell benching 115s.
Yeah.
For 6. I just
No, and like
just
when I came back, you looked completely different too. Like it was just
yeah,
a different cat out there. And
yeah.
also to get into that, right? So like I go home that fall, I'm not really sure what I'm doing, right? And then I come
Mm-hmm.
back as the GA to work under engineer and kind of learn more
Mm-hmm.
stuff about it. Um, Kind of take us through, I guess, your perspective of A, me coming back, right? And then B, I remember coming back and you didn't even know if you were going to be the Friday guy yet, and you were still
Mm-hmm.
kind of fighting and clawing for that.
Yeah.
So kind of just walk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, I think you coming back and doing that was cool. Like I said, just me knowing you, and just being friends, being able to talk to you. You kind of gave me the inside scoop a lot too. What was happening in the coaching room, and that was pretty cool. Got to know what was happening in there, whether you were supposed to or not. But probably not. but
Probably not.
um, but yeah, I mean, again, just the advice, being able to kind of give me feedback on kind of where I was at. Again, I don't. I mean, now that you keep talking about it, I don't know why, but apparently I had some confidence issues. I don't know. But even going into that year, I was like, I don't know if I'm good enough to, beat out Isaac. I didn't know all this stuff. But
Right. And to give context to that too, like, Isaac was not necessarily somebody that is like this. Again, Isaac's with the Dodgers right now, and he
mm-hmm.
was our Saturday guy the year before and did really well. Obviously, the injury happens and he sits out. But I remember coming back and you being like, dude, I might be Sunday again. Like, I have no idea.
Yeah.
You didn't really know what your role was going to be. And I was sitting there like, I'm pretty sure you're going to throw on Friday nights. Like, I'm pretty positive that's what's going to happen.
All right. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, dude. I don't know. I don't know if it was just I was never satisfied with where I was at, and that came with, and that was part of it. But I don't know. It was just like I remember I hit a 95 in the winter, I think. Everyone was freaking out about it, and I was just like, I don't know. I never felt accomplished. I don't know if that's somewhat of a bad thing, but
I
don't
think it's a
know.
bit of both. Like I think it's why you got to where you got to is that you were never satisfied.
Mm-hmm.
I think it probably hindered you a little bit at times of just from a confidence perspective. But right, you get that Friday spot, and then pretty much right away we start to dominate. Like your first in conference start against UCLA, I think we had like 6 punchies in like 2 innings. Like I think you struck out the side both innings.
Yeah.
And then I remember you came up to me and were like, I think this was the first time that you realized like,
Absolutely.
oh, there is more after this for me because you were like, dude, my phone is blowing up on Twitter. Like, what's going on? And I was like, yeah, that's what's going to happen when you strike out 6 against a top 10 team.
Right. I
And I think
actually,
for you, that was like, oh my God moment.
yeah, that game, absolutely, you're right on the head. And I mean, I think I had 10, 10 punchies in that game, but I only went like 4 2/3 because I had like 100 something pitches. Because I was like walking people too. It wasn't just punchies. It was a little bit. It was like half and half good, half and half bad. But
I think your
um,
first inning literally went punchy, punchy, walk, punchy. The next inning was punchy, walk, punchy, walk. It was like just back
yeah,
and forth of that. Yeah, you go 4 innings, but you punched out 10 and 4, which is
yeah,
just insane.
something like that. I could be wrong, but it was something like I know I had double digit strikeouts because I know Oz was like, yeah, everyone's blowing you up on Twitter, but you only went 4 innings, and I was like, I get it.
In
Like,
typical Wise fashion too,
yeah,
just in
yeah.
typical. But then, right, so we get to that point of we're the Friday guy, we're dominating, right, we're throwing 95, and halfway through the year, you're basically running away with being the Pac-12 pitcher of the year. Like it's really not close. Um, Kind of talk us through that, like what that felt like to be right. You're starting to realize there's more than this, and you're really the best pitcher in our conference. Like it's not close, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was super cool. The confidence was there. Definitely did not lack confidence anymore.
No,
Um,
definitely not. And you could see it,
uh,
right? There was like a presence out there when you pitched, like from right in I was a GA, right? I was the coach, but at the same time, I was still a player, still a teammate of yours at one time. It was from my perspective, like when Jace gets the ball, like we're gonna win, like it's
right,
inevitable.
right. Yeah, and I think, and honestly, like, and I'm not just saying that because I'm talking to you on an interview here, but like, you seriously, you played a very big role in that because you were always. I just remember every inning, you were the first guy out to come. Every time I come off, I'd obviously shake hands with Josiah, and then once I get into the dugout, you were the first guy right there. And then after every game, you're always one of the first guys to pull me to the side and talk me up or tell me, hey, this is what's happened. This is what I saw. Great job here. And so I think you did have a lot to do with that confidence boost. Not just being that GA coach, but it was like also you were still somewhat in like a teammate mindset at the same time.
Yeah, no, 100%. I'm not going to take credit at all for what you did that year. That was 100% you. But as I said, and as we've kind of talked throughout this interview, right, you did deal in the beginning with like that sort of confidence issue.
Hmm.
And then by the time we hit that year where you're the Friday guy, it's not even there was literally no lack of confidence at that point.
Hmm.
And then obviously we hit that sort of road bump halfway through the year. We get banged up a little bit. Kind of take us through, right? We're not pitching, we're banged up a little bit. It's frustrating. And then that summer you get drafted in the 8th round by the Twins. Did you think that was going to happen? Like, I know probably during the year you're like, I'm definitely getting drafted. And then obviously we get injured a little bit and it's like, oh, I don't know what's going on now.
Hmm. Yeah, so I definitely knew I was going to get drafted. I think I was having too many people reach out to me to not. Um, I think I got about 20 plus teams reached out to me. I think so. I was getting pretty heavily scouted. Um, and I mean, I in my mind I was like, listen, there's 20 rounds. At one point, when the Arizona State game, right before I got hurt in that Arizona State game, I think I was on a stretch of 5 straight games going 8 plus. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and
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 even
at
in
that,
Arizona State, you went into the 6th, and then obviously we had that issue.
I went to the 8th.
Oh, geez, yeah, you did.
Yeah,
I completely forgot
I
about
got
that.
I
Yeah,
got
you
pulled.
did.
I got pulled in the 8th with 2 outs because I was throwing about 72 mile an hour fastball.
And you
Um,
would have stayed out there if we let you. That's like the
oh,
crazy, like
100%.
to speak on your character, right? And that's why you gotten to where you've gotten to, and why you did get drafted in the round was like, unless we physically yanked you off the mound, you were just gonna fall on the sword for us in a sense. Because not even the sense of like, I think in your mind, and this is to speak on how far you came, was there was nobody else better to give the ball to, even if you were throwing 72 miles an hour in your
Right.
mind. You're like, there's nobody else better than me right now.
Mhm.
And obviously, if we didn't come out there or Angier didn't come out there, we would have just kept throwing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it happened. I remember the first. It was the first warm up pitch of that inning. Well, the last out of the 7th, I came in and I was like, all right, my hand and my forearm's on fire. Something's weird. So I didn't say anything. Went back out for the 8th. My first warm up pitch, I hit the top of the backstop, and I was like, okay, that something's wrong. I don't have any feeling in my hand. I have no grip strength. I don't know what's going on. And it hurt so bad. And I remember I had the first pitch of the inning, it was a fastball, and I threw it, and he watched it for a strike, and it was 81 miles an hour. And I was like, oh, that's not very good. And
We're in the dugout thinking it's changeups or that the board's off because that was an issue we had, right? We had just gotten a new scoreboard the year before, and the track into the scoreboard was sometimes down or it would glitch. So we're in the dugout thinking like, oh my god, like, oh, it's just a glitch, like it's fine. And then it's like a couple pitches in a row, like, I remember Angier turned to me like, what do you think is going on? Like to all of us, like me, Waz, the other pitchers, and I was like, you should probably go see what's going on. I should probably go get him.
yeah, I think I ended up getting 2 outs, and then I walked. Actually, I gave up 2 outs. I think gave up a tank, and then 2 outs, the tank, and then I think I walked the next one, and it was all like 82 mile. And I was shaking off every fastball. I was throwing curveballs because I just couldn't throw a fastball, and I kept shaking the changeups, and I was like, I can't throw a fastball. But then I think he ended up yanking me with 2 outs in the eighth, in the eighth. But back to what you're saying about the draft, it's definitely right before that game. I was, the rankings come out,
Yeah, I mean, you were
um,
projected what, third, second rounder? Like you
yeah,
were up there, man.
I don't know if it was quite that high, but I was a top 100 prospect in the country. I think I was like 97 at the time. So I was like, I mean, you go from that's top 4 rounds to like completely dropping out of the draft. I don't know. I definitely never thought I wasn't going to get drafted.
Mm-hmm.
But it was definitely like I'm a top 100 player in the nation, and then the next game I go 8 2/3 again. Obviously the scouts didn't know I was hurt yet, but
Right.
so I was like, I probably just jumped up another 15 spots, I would assume, so I
Mm-hmm.
was like, okay, here we go, maybe top 3 rounds, and then obviously everything went downhill from there, and missed the playoffs and all that good stuff, and ended up going in the eighth, but everything happens
Yeah,
for
but
a reason.
right.
So
Yeah. I mean, all that aside, right? Like, what did it mean to you to go from that kid who was like, I'm not even good enough to play Power Five to then, getting that text message or getting that phone call from either your agent or the Twins that like they took you in the eighth round and you're going to go play professional baseball whenever you're ready to.
right. Was definitely a surreal moment. I didn't know what round I was going to go anymore. It's kind of up in the air. My agent didn't know. He was getting different numbers from different teams, and um, so when it ended up being in the eighth, I just remember watching the TV with my family, and we are just sitting in the living room watching it, and just
And the robot voice comes on and says your name, which is the most unbelievable thing. You never
yeah,
wanted to hear a robot voice before, but you finally
right,
do.
right. And just I don't know, I just remember sitting there like I almost didn't have emotion because I didn't know what to do. It was just kind of like that's something I never thought that was ever going to happen, sort of thing.
Mhm.
So it was definitely a surreal moment, and I didn't really have a lot of um, emotion towards it, not in a bad way. I just didn't know what to do. You know.
Yeah, no, I mean, 100%. I think from a teammate and a coaching perspective, it was something that it was like inevitable that you were going to be um, in professional baseball in some capacity. Obviously, those next couple of years are a little tumultuous, a little tough in your playing career. But again, from a guy who saw you when you first stepped on campus in Oregon, and then to where you ended up, like flat out, I just want to say that like I'm proud of you, dude. Because like I don't know if anyone's ever told you that. I'm sure a lot of people have, but it was cool to see it unfold in front of my eyes of like the kid who was like no idea what's going on, just not we're never happy to be at Oregon. You always were a hard worker, but it was like to go from the guy who was like unsure of his goal to then the guy who was like, I'm 100% one of the best pitchers in the country was amazing to see unfold. And that year was special to watch, even though it was cut short. Like that was some of the most fun I've ever had watching another athlete perform because it was one such an up close view, and it was somebody that again that we lived with each other for a year. We have been friends since then, so it was very cool to see that in front of my face.
Well, thank you, dude. I appreciate it.
Um, so yeah, that was really cool. I appreciate sort of you saying that I was like a mentor to you because that was what I was trying to do when I came back as a GA. was just trying to help as many guys as I can. Because at that time, right, we had a really, really young pitching staff. You were one of the older guys, and you were still 20 years old or turning
Yeah.
21. So you were a
Yeah.
young cat yourself, and we still had a lot of young guys. Like when you look back on that team of, we made it to super regionals that year, and starting the last game in the super regional was a freshman, right? And the first couple guys out of the pen were freshmen. Like it was a very freshman heavy. Leo was our Saturday guy who was a freshman. So that was what I was trying to do, is to try to mentor as much as I could, which you did yourself too. Right? Like you took those guys under your wing as well.
Yeah. Tried to, they were a bunch of squirrels, but
They were just young.
yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean, I was only 20, and it was pretty crazy. Um, I was just now in that time was just kind of actually. The game of baseball. I'd kind of gotten by talent and maybe facing not great talent. But I never really understood baseball. I didn't understand the game until honestly that junior year. Even my sophomore year being the Sunday guy, I was just kind of like winging it. I was just like, I'm gonna throw my 4 pitches over the plate and pray that it doesn't get hammered. But it definitely was a growing experience into that junior year for just like literally everything. It's kind of weird how fast it all happened. Um, yeah, just everything from baseball IQ to understanding it to velocity to maturity to it just all happened over that summer. It was weird. It just all kind of clicked. So
Yeah. I mean, for anyone watching this, right, and I think you're a very good person to have speak on it as far as like me as a mentor to you, to the guys that were there, kind of like I guess your perspective on it, and then if anyone's sort of skeptical as far as like I guess who I am, like what you would say.
um well, one thing is I hate the way you say tournament.
Yes, that is
I
true.
hate,
You do despise that.
I don't know why you say it like that.
I don't know, man.
But no, I mean, obviously you're a good dude. Um, I think you look for the best in people for sure. I think you are, at least from my experience, you definitely saw one thing that, maybe I needed. You're like, maybe this kid does need some sort of confidence boost. Maybe he doesn't think this highly of himself. So like I said, going into being that guy that was the first one to, give me a high five, or after the game, I remember you telling me it multiple times on that long stretch of like, you're going to be a big leaguer. Like I vividly remember you saying that, stuff like that. You're definitely going to get drafted. You're going to be a big leaguer. You're going to go very far in this game. Like, doing stuff like that while I'm in the moment, even though I had the confidence, it was like, yeah, damn right. You know what I mean? Like, absolutely. And it was like, you definitely helped with that.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate, and it's not right. When I was doing that, I meant it, right? Like, I'm
Yeah.
not going to say that to just anyone. As I said, it was really amazing to watch that year unfold. And when you went on that stretch, like, I was like, I just need to make sure, like, whatever he's doing right now, he sticks with it and needs to, like, realize that, like, I think sometimes when we're in that sort of like flow state, for lack of a better term, those 5 stretches, we don't ever take a moment to like kind of stand up and look around. We're like, if you ever see Adley Rutschman's big league debut, like he takes his mask off and like does a full 360 to be like, oh my God, I'm a big leaguer. So I wanted in that time frame for you to realize like how special it was, and that like, dude, you're a big leaguer. Like that's where this is going. And like I didn't want you to lose sight of that. Yeah. Well, anyway, dude, I want to thank you
Yeah.
specifically for doing this. You're a tremendous human being, which I told you a lot throughout that year as well. Because like as you know, when we went through those talks with Waz, at the end of the day, you're just a human being, right? More than a baseball player. So I appreciate you doing this. Jace Stoffal, Twins 8th rounder, in my opinion, still a big leaguer to this day, but obviously our life goes in different directions. But again, really appreciate you doing this, dude.
Yeah. Thank you, dude. Appreciate it.